My presentation is His guidance through life's storms. The Lord has blessed me in a number of ways to be able to tell my story, and I hope you can appreciate that. So a little bit about me, my early life. I was raised in Fort Bend County, Texas, which is just outside of Houston. I wrote this when I was in second grade. When I grow up, I will be a seller. Not I want to be a seller. No, I will be a seller. Now to backtrack a little bit, when I was growing up, I used to be in Boy Scouts and sell Scout Fair tickets, which is a big thing in Houston, and I won trophies that were larger than me for sales of tickets because I wanted to own the bike or I wanted to own the tent that were prizes. It was a natural transition once that I tried marijuana that I would begin selling it. My friends had a need for it, and when I saw that need, I made that choice. At the time, seemed inconsequential, but made that choice to fulfill that need. And, that led me on a very deep and dark path for about 15 years. Led me on to a prison of addiction. And I can praise the Lord that today I have over 7 years clean and sober. My teenage years, my parents got a divorce, and it changed my life. I always say to my two stepsons, who are 7 and 10, Gavin and Logan, that life is full of choices, don't it, honey? And, during that time, I made some choices that I would, at the time seemed inconsequential, but I made new friends in Sugar Land, and especially, started hanging around the wrong group of people. So I continued down a long road of addiction. I got into Brevard Community College and was working on my associate's degree. And, I was able to do well in school. I had straight A's. I excelled at economics, surprise, surprise, and biology. And I got accepted to the University of Florida. And I wanted to go into criminal law, ironically. All this was going on. And April 2004, I had a moment that changed my life in so many ways. I had a friend who had visited me from Houston, one of those friends I had gotten into no good trouble with. And we were taking him back to the airport in Orlando. And it was about 5:30 in the morning, and we were traveling 95 north, and a vehicle, SUV, started rolling over. It had gone about 95, 100 miles an hour, and it rolled over, and we heard this bang, 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 and then I see this white mass of metal coming. And I'll spare you the gory details, but let's just say it's an image I'll never forget. My mom was killed instantly. At the time, I had made so many bad choices in my life, and after that, it was more of a catalyst for me to continue to do so. I didn't have a parental figure to check in on me. My dad literally works in Siberia, so when he's not in Houston, he's in Siberia. He's an oil man. I had no brothers and sisters, the only child, so it was basically me on my own, and I chose to run wild. I managed to get my associate's degree, but after that, just pretty much partying all the time, selling, just going down a dark path. I was all into jewelry, and at one point I got this tattoo that to me symbolized my mom, And, at the time, I had gone about a year and a half clean, and I started getting this tattoo, and it all just went downhill from there because I started getting on painkillers. But I had gone the route of cocaine and all that sort of stuff I was selling, and not causing any good to anybody. And got shot at several times. So focused on having my nice car and going just living that life. The gold chains, the diamond rings. It ended up causing numerous arrests. Went to drug court, and that's when I actually did get clean for a little bit of time. But I did manage to get to church one day. And this was July 2012. And I knew that I was an addict. I knew that I was powerless over my life, and I wanted change. I genuinely did. But I just felt so helpless, so hopeless about the whole thing. So 2012, I gave my life to Jesus. I was still an addict. I was still out there living that life, but I knew I needed a Savior. And, fast forward to about September of that year, and I'm doing some community service, and all of a sudden, Brevard County Sheriff's Office comes up and arrests me. Okay, so this was from a charge where someone had wore a wire and bought from me confidentially in February of that year. And they were picking me up now. And when I read the charges, or when they read me the charges, I was really grateful, because I said, no matter what, these are serious charges, but I said, at least with this time, I can get clean. Because I'm getting away from that environment. And while I wouldn't exactly say I was excited to go to prison, it awakened a flame that I had the opportunity to change. Just got some photos of the prison there, and that's my mugshot right before I left. But I started working on what I call the Quincy Papers. And, you don't have access to Google. You don't really have much access to information at all, except books and magazines. So I would go to the library with friends and write down goals, write down Bible verses that meant a lot to me, and inspirational quotes. I even have a business plan in here. It was, I was going to come out and sell hot sauce. And believe it or not, at one point in my life, there was a major decision I had to make, whether it was hot sauce or photography. I worked on this thing for so long. This is a year of time, and just so many various subjects in there. They said all of a sudden I was getting transferred to Jacksonville. Jacksonville? To me, in my mindset at the time, Jacksonville was like the armpit of Florida, Like, no, I want South or Central Florida, right? Well, but, during that time, I continued reading the Word, and one of those verses that really stuck out to me was Galatians 4:9. But now that you know God, or rather are known by God, how is it that you are turning back to those weak and miserable forces? Do you wish to be enslaved by them all over again? Now, in prison, you can still get drugs if you want to. And there's quite a few people who go that route. And during that time, there was one gentleman who we actually kind of covered for, in a sense. But he had smoked something, and he'd actually turned green. like green, not natural color. I've never seen anyone turn green quite like that, but yeah. But during that time, I had another life-changing event where, when you're getting out, you're very nervous about where you're going to live, how you're going to get a job and pay for, halfway houses and stuff like that. But the gentleman actually on the right there, he told me about this place called Prisoners of Christ. And Prisoners of Christ came into the facilities, and here's Steve McCoy with Sheriff Mike Williams. And he led the program to go into Lottie Correctional Institute. He actually was the man responsible for making that a faith-based prison. And he would come into the bridge as well and have Sunday morning with us. And he told me about Prisoners of Christ, so I applied, and I was accepted. And the great thing about it is they don't force you to pay back money until you have a job. All these other places were saying, after 2 weeks, you need to have a job. You need to be paying us back for those first 2 weeks or else you're out. Okay, well, I didn't know anyone in Jacksonville. Here I am with a fresh felony, and you want me to get a job right away. I mean, I'm going to try, but the deck's stacked against me a little bit. So I was released January 5th, 2014. This is my stepmom and my dad. They drove over from Jacksonville or from Houston to come pick me up, and we went to the landing. That was my first photo as a free man. We went to the landing and just hung out. End up through the ministry getting a job at the Florida Times-Union. I'm in production, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity. That began in March 2014. And around that same time, I began getting discipled by my pastor at First Baptist Church, Steve Clifton, the gentleman on the left. That's a recent photo. I recently had the opportunity to photograph the Gator Bowl for University of Tennessee, so recent photo. But he helped guide me and brought me in his family when I really needed that. But he would just invest time in me when a lot of people wouldn't. And greatly appreciate that. I'm forever grateful for him. But, I started taking photos on my cell phone. And I had a process I called Guerilla Photography where, I had to be at work 7 a.m. sharp. If I was a minute late, I was getting rode up. So, I would take photos on the phone. If I couldn't be back on the bicycle within a minute, I wouldn't do it. And I did that practice, just capturing different angles of downtown, of just life as I saw it. But Robert Tebbs, during that time, he blessed me with a camera, real camera, a DSLR that you can take professional photos on. I ended up playing around more with the camera Bob had given me, and a few months later, I got invited to do an exhibit at the airport, or not the airport, the library, the downtown library. And so I did that summer 2015. Now, I'm not smiling in those photos because just before I came down with a case of Bell's palsy, where I couldn't close my eyes, I couldn't smile. Praise God, that's all done. And actually, that's when I met my future mother-in-law, and I could barely talk. But everyone enjoyed the photos, and it was a wonderful growing experience for me. Just put my heart and soul into this exhibit and for it to be well received. We continue to do photography. It just became more and more of a passion of mine. This is a photo of Atlanta, and that's from Jackson Street Bridge, and it has a great view of downtown. And it was selected to be exhibited in Galleria 6+1 in Madrid, Spain, summer of 2017. 30 images were selected out of 68,000. So that, when I had reaffirmation like that, it told me I was doing something right. And the photography continued to grow, and I got accepted to Jacksonville International Airport to be displayed in the Haskell Gallery in summer of 2017. So this was a major, major production for me. Like I said, I was still working at Times Union. I had to save every dollar I could. And by this time, I had gone and proposed to my wife down the beach. I know, not Memorial Park, I know. But, so we were preparing for our wedding, but wanted at least one of us to be out of school. So I was going to graduate in August, and then we were going to go get married. But yes, after 14 years, I was finally able to get my bachelor's after starting down that way. So that was August 2017, and then September 2017 came. And during that time, it was Hurricane Irma. I was fully prepared to hunker down for the storm. I had gotten a few books on photography, and I just wanted to read and see what I could learn. Listen to the weatherman. He says, hunker down, I'll hunker down. So I'm doing that, and I see the creek behind my place rising more and more. By this time, I had moved closer to like the Cork Art District, kind of on the edge by Stockton over there. And I saw the creek rising. By that time, I was driving. Had a breathalyzer and everything. My pastor, Steve Clifton, he had evacuated to Tennessee. And I guess he had seen on the news already that there was 4 feet of water at Memorial Park. Now, like at the statue, you can't tell me something like that and not expect me to go take photos. So, because my passion began in that park, truly did in so many ways. So I got on my finest pair of safety sandals and got in the car, figured I'd go down Stockton Ave. Well, that wasn't happening. Stockton Road. I figured I'd go to Riverside Ave, and it was all flooded, quite a bit. There's down power lines, there's branches everywhere, the wind's whipping, the waves are crashing. Yeah, sure, I'll give it a try. Now, I didn't have a telephoto lens, I didn't have a big lens, so, I had to get kind of up close and personal. This is the only shot I know of me out there that day. And right there at that point, I'm about knee deep in the water. And I did manage to get a selfie. There are guys going up to the base of the statue and getting selfies and all that. No, I just turned my camera around at some point and said, okay, I got to recapture my look. But I was out there that day, and I took about 300 photos of the statue, and I had this vision of I wanted to have a fast enough shutter speed where I could capture the individual droplets of water and have it crashing over the statue. And, I ended up doing that, and, in the way I envisioned. I didn't quite necessarily know I had got this photo when I took it. This is the photo, Life in the River. So it, by this point, the people on their bikes had gone pretty much all the way to the base of the statue. And I figured, well, hey, if they're doing it, I can too. They're jumping off a cliff. Well, I can too, right? So I got my, I decided to take the plunge. By this point, I'd been knee deep in the water, but I ended up getting to about this deep in the water. Had my camera, or I had my phone in this hand, because everything was wet. I couldn't put anything down. So I had my phone in this hand. I had my keys dangling from my mouth, because I couldn't get the key fob wet. And I'm taking photos with the actual camera. And, that one, there's just something about the way the wave crashes at the base of the statue where it becomes so much more than simply a storm, simply a a photo recording that. So, that photo, I shared it on Facebook, and instantly it went viral. It was covered on WJXT on their River City Live, their first broadcast after the storm. It was covered on the morning show, Jacksonville Magazine, the Olmsted Preservation Field Notes, Florida Times Union, Resident News, Void Magazine, all over the place. But I also estimate that just through simple shares on Facebook, about 1 million people saw it within a week. I've never experienced anything like that. I thought, well, hey, I got 500 likes on a photo. That's cool. But no, this thing went to a whole different level. I had to realize I went from getting 1 email a week to all of a sudden after River City Live, I had 700 emails. Became a FAA certified drone pilot in December 2018. Now let me back up for just a second. When I did win the Bold City Best competition, by that point I had began a career in logistics. I had left Florida Times Union and I'd gone on to a logistics firm. And I was working there for about 6 months, but between all the events I was doing and working full-time, having a ready-made family with my stepsons and my wife, it just wasn't sustainable. So I told, my wife was feeling the effects of it, and I said, well, if we got to make if I win this Bold City Best competition, then I'll go full-time. So I went full-time photographer November 2018 with Cran Photo. Some people might be like, Cran Photo, what's that? So it's the first 4 letters it's my first name backwards, and then the first 4 letters of my last name. I didn't want capturing beautiful moments photography, awesome photography, Mark Krancer photography. No, I wanted something to be a little different, because I think I look at the world just a little bit differently. And that's it. Thank you so much for your time.